What if the sun disappeared right now? The last thing you'd notice is the light going out. That's the truly terrifying part. For 8 full minutes after the sun vanished from existence, you'd sit there completely unaware that humanity's clock had already begun its final countdown. You'd sip your coffee, scroll through your phone, maybe complain about the weather, all while speeding through space on a planet that had already become an orphan, hurtling into the infinite darkness with no star to call home. But let's go back to the moment it happens. Right now, this very instant. 150 million kilometers away, our sun, that massive ball of nuclear fury that's burned for 4.5 billion years, simply ceases to exist. Not an explosion, not a supernova, just gone. Erased from reality as if some cosmic hand reached down and snuffed out a candle. The question isn't whether we'd survive, we wouldn't. The question is how our world would unravel, minute by minute, hour by hour, as everything we've ever known collapses into frozen oblivion. For those first 8 minutes and 20 seconds, life continues exactly as it always has. The photons that left the sun's surface just before it disappeared are still racing toward us at the speed of light, carrying the warmth and energy of a star that no longer exists. Ghost light from a ghost star. People in Tokyo are preparing dinner. New Yorkers are stuck in traffic. Farmers in Kenya are tending their crops under a sun that isn't there anymore. Nobody knows. Nobody suspects. The universe is keeping a terrible secret. Then the light switches off. Not gradually, like a sunset, instantly, as if someone pulled a cosmic circuit breaker. Across half the planet, day becomes night in a heartbeat. But this isn't the comfortable darkness of evening, with its promise of dawn. This is absolute. This is permanent. This is the universe showing us what true darkness really means. People would pour into the streets, staring up at a sky that had betrayed them. Panic wouldn't set in immediately. The human mind needs time to process the impossible. We'd reach for rational explanations. A solar eclipse, perhaps, some atmospheric phenomenon, anything but the truth. But 8 minutes and 20 seconds after the light vanishes, something else disappears. Gravity. Einstein taught us that gravity doesn't travel infinitely fast. It moves at the speed of light, rippling through the fabric of space-time like waves across a cosmic ocean. The sun's gravitational embrace, which has held Earth in its orbit for eons, would release us with the same 8-minute delay. And in that moment, everything changes. Earth would immediately begin traveling in a straight line, like a stone released from a sling. We're currently orbiting the sun at roughly 30 kilometers per second, about 67,000 miles per hour. That's the speed at which we'd shoot off into interstellar space, carrying our atmosphere, our oceans, and 8 billion confused souls into the frozen void. We wouldn't be alone in our exile. The entire solar system would fragment. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, all of them would break formation and drift away on their own trajectories, a family scattered to the cosmic winds. The temperature would begin dropping immediately. Without the sun's constant energy bombardment, Earth's surface would cool rapidly. Within a week, the global average temperature would plummet below freezing. Within a year, it would reach minus 100 degrees Fahrenheit. But the real cold, the true, bone-deep cold of space, would take longer to arrive. Earth's core, still molten from the radioactive decay of ancient elements and the residual heat of our planet's violent formation, would keep us marginally warmer than we had any right to be. But marginally warmer in space means nothing when the surface becomes an icy hellscape. The collapse of civilization wouldn't wait for the cold. Within hours, every power grid on the planet would be strained to breaking as people desperately tried to heat their homes, charge their devices, find answers in the digital noise. Within days, most electrical infrastructure would fail. Not because we'd run out of fuel, but because demand would so vastly outstrip supply that systems would simply shut down to prevent catastrophic damage. Nuclear power plants would continue running, at least for a while. Hydroelectric dams would keep spinning their turbines. But distribution networks would fail, and in the darkness and chaos, maintaining them would become impossible. Photosynthesis would stop immediately. Every plant on Earth, from the mighty redwoods to the microscopic phytoplankton drifting in the oceans, would begin to die. These organisms form the base of virtually every food chain on the planet. Within weeks, herbivores would be starving. Within months, The cascading collapse would reach the predators. The oceans would freeze from the surface down, sealing away the majority of Earth's biomass under meters of ice. But deep in those dark waters, something might survive. Near hydrothermal vents, cracks in the ocean floor where superheated mineral-rich water pours out from Earth's interior, ecosystems exist that have never depended on sunlight. These strange communities of tube worms, blind shrimp, and bacteria that eat chemicals instead of light might actually outlive us all, thriving in their lightless havens even as the world above them becomes a frozen tomb. Humanity would have options, at least briefly. We'd retreat underground to the places where Earth's internal heat could still reach us. Subway systems would become refugee camps. Basement shelters would transform into fortresses against the cold. If we were clever and lucky and cooperative, three things we're not particularly known for, we might establish colonies near geothermal features. Iceland, with its abundance of volcanic heat, might become humanity's last stronghold. We could theoretically grow food under artificial lights, powered by geothermal or nuclear energy. We could melt ice for water. We could survive, in a sense, for years or even decades. But survival isn't living, it's merely dying slowly. The psychological toll would be staggering. Imagine raising children who would never see a sunrise, never feel natural warmth on their skin, never see a tree or a bird or a butterfly. Imagine a world where the sky, if you were brave enough to venture to the surface, was filled with stars brighter and more numerous than anyone in human history had ever witnessed, unmarred by atmospheric light scatter, but cold and distant and utterly indifferent to your suffering. The stars would become a torture, each one a reminder of what we'd lost, each one a sun for some other world that still basked in light and warmth. The atmosphere would begin to change. Without solar radiation to maintain its chemical balance, without plants to produce oxygen, the air itself would start to fail us. Carbon dioxide would build up in our sealed environments. Oxygen would grow scarce. We'd have scrubbers and filters, engineering solutions to engineering problems, but they'd require maintenance, require power, require a level of social organization that might not survive the initial chaos. And slowly, inexorably, our sealed habitats would become tombs. Eventually, even Earth's core would cool. It would take millions of years, perhaps billions, but without the sun's heat to maintain our planet's temperature gradient, the geological processes that keep our world alive would slow and stop. The magnetic field generated by our spinning molten core would fade away. The tectonic plates would cease their grinding dance. Our planet would become geologically dead, just another frozen rock drifting through the infinite dark. But long before that, long before Earth's final death, humanity would be gone. There's a strange poetry in imagining Earth's journey into the void. We'd drift between the stars for eons, a ghost ship carrying the frozen evidence of a civilization that once looked up at the night sky and dared to wonder. Maybe in millions of years we'd pass through another solar system. Maybe Earth would be captured by a new star's gravity, welcomed into a new family. The ice would melt, the oceans would flow again. But there would be no one left to see it, no one to appreciate the second chance. Just ruins beneath the ice, monuments to ambition and art and love and loss, waiting for some future explorer to find them and ask what happened here. But perhaps the most haunting aspect of this scenario isn't the cold or the darkness or even the extinction of our species. It's the realization of how fragile our existence truly is, how completely dependent we are on that ball of fusing hydrogen we take for granted every single day. We build our cities and wage our wars and pursue our dreams as if we're the masters of reality, as if we control our destiny through sheer force of will. But we're just passengers on a rock, warmed by a star that could, in the cosmic scheme of things, wink out at any moment. We're alive because of an accident of distance and chemistry and timing that we did nothing to earn and can do nothing to secure. The sun won't disappear, of course. Stars don't simply vanish. Hello, I'm a sample audio. Upload or regenerate your own speech to add an interesting speech to your video.